Hey everybody, this is Raticate here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Movesets video. Today's video is going to be all about the Alolan form of Raticate, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Alolan Raticate is a dark normal type Pokemon introduced in Generation 7 as an alternative form of the regular Raticate that's been around since Gen 1. And for this Pokemon's abilities, it has access to 3, the first of which being Gluttony, which is an ability that allows this Pokemon to make use of berries when it falls below 50% of its health, as opposed to the usual 25%, which obviously applies to everything really except for a citrus berry because that just works at 50% of your health anyway. But its second ability is known as Hustle, which is an ability with a twofold effect, the first being that it will increase your physical attack power by 50%, but the second being that it lowers your base accuracy to 80%, which is kind of an interesting way of allowing this Pokemon to deal some more damage at the cost of being a little bit more inaccurate. So it does have a little bit of a drawback, but it does allow Alolan Raticate to dish out considerably more damage as a result. But finally, this Pokemon's last ability, which is its hidden ability, is known as Thick Fat, which increases this Pokemon's resistance to ice and fire type moves, which is a very cool effect and gives it a unique way of allowing it to switch into possibly more attacks than it normally would be able to, because it will be now resisting those types of attacks. Before its stats, this Pokemon has some pretty average stats all around, defensively having base 75 HP, 70 defense, and 80 special defense, meaning that it will actually be able to take a hit or two because it's significantly bulkier than the other version of Raticate. And offensively, this Pokemon has base 71 physical attack, 40 special attack, and 77 speed, meaning that it will still be kind of a slow but still somewhat powerful offensive attacker when using physical moves, especially when combined with the Hustle ability. But with that, everybody, let's take a look at the first moveset that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to be running Raticate as kind of a jack-of-all-trades utility Pokemon that really has a move for every situation it can need one for. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, and then going with either the Thick Fat or the Gluttony ability, and the Gluttony ability though specifically to be used in combination with the Figgy Berry item, which is one of the items listed here, as a way to recover 50% of your health when you fall below 50% of your health as kind of a free heal, which is really great for this set in particular because it's designed to stick around for a while and really just annoy your opponent's team. But when going with the Thick Fat ability, you pretty much can use either of these other options here and leftovers to recover HP at the end of every turn, or a Life Orb to allow you to do a little bit more damage with your attacks. But the added resistance to fire and ice is very useful on this set as well. But for the EVs, we're going to be maxing both your physical attack and speed stat with 252 EVs into both of those, and then putting the remainder 4 into its defense. As for the moves though, like I said, this set is designed to have pretty much a move for every situation. So the first thing that we're going to go with is going to be Taunt as a way to allow this Pokemon to prevent its opponents from using any non-attacking moves, which can either, prevent hazards from being set up, prevent this Pokemon from being statused by any like Toxic or Thunder Wave or things like that, and also prevent your opponent from recovering health if they're going to be trying to do that and stall you out as well. Additionally, we're also going to be running Knockoff on this set to allow this Pokemon to remove an opponent's item, and also deal a considerable chunk of Dark-type damage in the process, because Knockoff is one of the best moves in the game. And then for your third move slot, allowing Raticate to be a reliable Pursuit Trapper, if you want to go with that option, to obviously hit your opponent really hard if they're trying to switch out, or running Super Fang, which is a great way of just dealing a good chunk of damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon, because this will always be removing half of your opponent's health based on their current HP stat. And finally, for the last move on the set, we could either run Sucker Punch to allow this Pokemon to have a reliable priority move that will be dealing a significant chunk of damage whenever your opponent at least is trying to attack you, which also works very well in combination with Taunt because then they're forced to attack you, so Sucker Punch will always work. Or we could also run U-Turn to allow this Pokemon to have a reliable way of weaving in and out of battle, possibly gaining you some switch initiative and also dealing a little bit of damage in the process. As for the second moveset, we're going to be running Raticate as a fully offensive physical attacker. So again, we're going to go with the Jolly Nature and the same EV spread as before, but for the ability this time, we're going to be choosing between Hustle, which will be increasing our physical attack further, or Thick Fat to give us some added resistances. But for the items on the set, the first one that we're going to choose between is either going to be a choice item in the form of a choice band or a choice scarf to boost your physical attack or your speed while locking you into a move. And I would also just like to point out that if you do use a choice band with Hustle, you are essentially at +2 physical attack at all times, which is really insane because it does allow this Pokemon to do a huge amount of damage to really anything it's up against. And I think I've also shown a video on that on a older Raticate, normal Raticate version set a while back on how it can just rip through teams with how powerful like its stab returns can be with a Hustle and a choice band as its item and ability choice. But additionally, we could also run with black glasses if we just want to boost the power of our dark moves, of which we could possibly be running 3 on this set, or a life orb to boost the power of all of our attacks at the cost of losing 10% of our health every time we damage our opponent. But for the first move on the set, we're going to go with the priority stab option in the form of either Sucker Punch or Quick Attack. Sucker Punch, though, as mentioned before, is really only working if your opponent is also attacking you, though it also is the stronger attack, whereas Quick Attack works all the time, but it is a little bit weaker, but you still get stab on both of these. Then we're going to run Knockoff again like before as your main stab dark move, and for your third move slot, running either Return to have a really powerful stab normal type move. You could also run Double Edge here, but I think the recoil isn't that particularly useful for this Pokemon just because it not being like the fastest thing in the world. You could also run Pursuit like before as well to have a powerful Pursuit Trapper, or U-Turn to weave in and out of battle like for the reasons stated on the previous set to gain some switch initiative and do a little bit of damage at the process. It also allows you to do a considerable amount of damage to dark types that this Pokemon can't really damage with its stab dark moves either. But for your last move slot, Pursuit and U-Turn are also there again, but if you want to go with a choiced set with the Choice Scarf or the Choice Band, Switcheroo could also be an amazing option to allow you to possibly cripple an opponent by forcing them to now be holding that item, which is really cool and something that the regular version of Raticate cannot do. But overall, this set can be very powerful and allow Raticate to do a considerable amount of damage with its powerful physical attacks. Moving on to the third set of this video, I have one of 3-ish boosting sets for you to try out with this Pokemon. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature, the same abilities, and the same EV spread as before. But for the item, we could either run a Life Orb to increase our damage while losing 10% of our health every time we damage our opponent, Normalium Z to work in combination with either Return or Focus Energy, which I'll talk a little bit more about in just a second, or another Z Crystal to really correspond to any other type of attack you're using on the set. But for the moves, the first one that we're going to go with is going to be our main boosting move. The first option being Swords Dance to boost our physical attack by 2 stages, and the second option being Focus Energy to boost our critical hit chance. And this might seem like a weird option, but when you use Focus Energy in combination with Normalium Z, you actually also boost your accuracy, which is amazing if you're going to be using Hustle on the set, because then you will actually not have to worry about the negative accuracy drawbacks of using Hustle once you have boosted your accuracy with Focus Energy, and also can make use of that increased crit chance. So both of these options are great for allowing this Pokemon to do more damage. But for your other attacks, we're going to go with Sucker Punch to be your main stab dark priority move on the set. We can also then run Knockoff or Return to give you another powerful dark type move, or a powerful normal type move to make use of, and then for your last move slot, running either Zen Headbutt, Iron Tail, or Stomping Tantrum to give you additional type coverage, Zen Headbutt being particularly useful against opposing fighting types, Iron Tail being particularly useful against opposing fairy types, and then Stomping Tantrum just giving you a great reliable ground type move to really hit opposing rock and steel types that are typically known for having quite good defense, so you can hit them super effectively and possibly break through those defensive walls. Now, in addition to the previous set you just saw, we could also run almost the exact same set, but one that focuses more so on boosting this Pokemon's speed as opposed to its physical attack power. So in this one, again, pretty much everything is exactly the same. The only thing to really note on this set is that we could run an Adamant Nature to increase our physical attack on the set, but more specifically, the first move is what changes here, being that we're going to be running Me First to be used in combination with Normalium Z. And when you do this combination, you actually get a +2 speed boost, allowing this Pokemon to be considerably faster on the battlefield and thus be able to outpace things it normally wouldn't have to. And as a result of this, not having to really rely on Sucker Punch to be your main stab dark move, so we can actually run both Knockoff and Return on the set very reliably to be your main stab dark and normal type moves. Additionally, Zen Headbutt and Iron Tail and Stomping Tantrum are there for additional coverage options, but the cool thing about using Me First with a Z move is that you actually also, in addition to boosting your speed, use the Z move of whatever your opponent's attack was going to be directed at you, provided you obviously go before it. So this does give you quite a bit more flexibility, especially if you're up against an opponent that is also weak to its own attacks. For example, if you're up against a Dragon type, you go for Me First, and you can very well outrage the opponent that was just trying to outrage you and take it out. So that's very cool, and allows this set to be very unique in its own way. So if you want to go with the speed boosting set, this is the way to do it, whereas if you want to go with a physical attack boosting set, the previous way was the way to do it. And finally, for the last moveset of this video, we're going to be showcasing a more bulky boosting set for Alolan Raticate to make use of, which really showcases how much more defensive this one is than the regular version of Raticate. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Careful Nature to increase its special defense but lower its special attack, going with the Thick Fat ability for those added resistances, and then also running an EV spread of 224 HP, 252 defense, and 32 speed EVs to give it its maximum special defense possible, while also giving it enough speed to outpace base 80 speed Pokemon, which it falls just short of outspeeding because of its base 77 speed stat. And for the item on the set, going with Leftovers to allow this Pokemon a reliable way to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But for the moves on the set, it's basically a sub-bulk up set to allow this Pokemon to get behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks and statuses when it goes for a substitute, and then to boost its physical attack and its physical defense by 1 stage each time you go for bulk up. And this will make this Pokemon significantly more bulky, thus being harder to take out and also more powerful at the same time. And for the main attacking moves on the set, you're just going to be going with Sucker Punch and Return. No gimmicks here, just really for the priority of Sucker Punch, because we're not going to be running any sort of speed on the set except for those 32 speed EVs, which really isn't going to make this Pokemon that much faster. It also is important to note that Sucker Punch is more powerful when behind a substitute, because your opponent has to attack you to break the substitute, and when they do that, obviously that means that Sucker Punch is going to work. Additionally though, Return is just a powerful stab normal type option to go with, and really Dark Normal Stab is pretty much unresisted by most opposing Pokemon, so this is just a great move combination in general to have that will allow this Pokemon to deal a considerable amount of damage once it sets up. But anyways everybody, that is it for this video on Alolan Raticate, so thank you all for watching, and as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.